Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. Do you know the 5 questions you need to ask yourself to determine whether or not you're going to be giving a great speech? Well, I know when I first joined Toastmasters, I was told, you have absolute freedom to talk about anything. I want you all to know that with absolute freedom comes absolute terror. There are just so many topics, so many things that you can talk about. Now, the first question you should all be asking yourself when you select a topic, is it interesting? Is it something that interests you? Is it something that you like? For example, just think about the table topics we've already heard this evening. I personally was enamored by Fan Lu's little table topics discussion about how she goes hunting. She really likes what she was talking about, because that's also the second question you need to ask yourself. Is it something you're going to like talking about? Is it interesting to you? Is it something you're going to like to talk about? And it was quite obvious that Fan Lu liked what she was talking about. She was having a good time. She actually was showing us all of the things that she's been learning in that first manual of Competent Communications. The first manual for a Toastmaster that some of you are first going to be receiving talks about putting together a speech for hand gestures, body language, learning how to give a speech without using notes. What it's doing in that book is pointing out your instrument, your vocal instrument, your physical instrument. I was an actor, and for years, you'd never know it looking at this body, but for years, I actually exercised an hour a day before I would do any kind of a performance. Well, you need to be aware of your physical instrument when you're giving a speech. And tonight, in my opinion, Fan Lu gave us a little snippet of what could be a wonderful speech in the future. Now, we have a new Toastmaster here, David. Here's an example of a good speaker speaking about something I absolutely had no understanding of whatsoever. But I'm making a point here. How would you turn something that is important to you, that's interesting to you, how would you work it to make it interesting to us? And that would be the third question you need to ask yourselves when selecting a speech topic. Is it something that the Toastmasters, that your audience is going to enjoy listening to? Well, you spoke about so many different aspects of your business or of what you're doing at work. You can easily think about it, about a certain aspect of what you do that affects a lot of us on a day-to-day basis, perhaps, and narrow it down and talk about just one particular aspect of your work that we would be able to follow. You obviously know what you're talking about, but I, for one, didn't, and I'm sure I'm speaking for a few other Toastmasters here that also might not have had a clue. But the point is even if it's something that's interesting, if it's something that you're familiar with, if it's something that obviously you can talk about in a one-on-one conversation with someone. If you can speak about a speech topic you have in mind, that you can speak one-on-one with anyone about it, with a friend about it, that definitely is going to be a great speech topic. What else did we hear tonight? Rochelle, of course, I would love to hear about Cuba. We all love travel. I've had beef Wellington. There are certain things. Talk to us about the more unusual kind of foods that you've eaten. But we'd love to hear about the entire trip going to Cuba. Travel is very easy. And you know what everybody in here has done at one time in their lives? You may not have looked at it, but it's probably on your computer or in some dusty file. You have a resume. If you go back to your resume, and it might even include high school, I mean, you look at what you wrote on your resume, the different jobs, if you reread what you wrote about the skills you had, what you did in every position of your working career, you're going to have so much to talk about. There's nothing wrong with bringing, August, you mentioned about humor and a joke. You could always bring a joke into a conversation with us. We like to laugh. God knows we've done enough crying, and there's no crying in Toastmasters, Veronica. We sympathize, we empathize, but really, this is where we're supposed to have a lot of fun. At the end of the evening, I put together a list over here that I would like you to take, especially the newbies, which is going to give a list of informative speech topics, but more than that, education, environment, ethics, it's alphabetical, music, society, self-help, science, supernatural. If you go and Google my speech class, 620 informative speeches for each of these speech topics, there are going to be 8 or 9 speeches listed for each one. So you will never be able to run out of ideas. Sometimes it's very difficult to pinpoint a particular one. Now, another of the 5 questions you need to ask yourself. If it's something that interests you, if it's something that you think you can talk about, is it also something that's going to be interesting to us? If it's something that you're not that familiar with, is it going to be interesting enough for you to research the topic? Because that's another question you need to ask yourself. Those first 10 speeches, really, most of those, you could just sit down, think of something, look at your resume, you will come up with a topic. And certainly, by looking at this list, you will not have a problem. But there are going to be more advanced speeches with a set of objectives. You must read those objectives. So many times over the years, I'm listening to the objectives being read, and the people giving a speech, they've given good speeches. Nothing came close to resembling any of the objectives. And I know I made a comment to somebody after a speech. She's now a published author and couldn't give a damn about what I said to her. But the fact was, it upset me that she didn't, I evaluated her, she didn't follow the objectives. Always read your objectives. The researching is more for the advanced, but still, you need the 5th question. The 5th question is, are you passionate about somebody mentioned it, and we've all heard it. A man who loves his job has never worked a day in his life, okay? And that's the truth. If you're passionate about, but there are those people that are working for a job and a paycheck for 40 years, 30 years, they don't like what they're doing a single day. It's not only something that interests you, it's got to be something that you love to make it a great speech, because I'm talking now about selecting topics, asking the questions in order to guarantee it's going to be a great speech. And I look forward to hearing your speeches in the future. Thank you.